All right. Good morning. Welcome to the Mindfulness Broadcast. Today is May 27th, and it is my birthday, everybody. I am 48 years old, and I am so happy to be alive and to be here and to be breathing and tasting amazing food and smelling beautiful lilacs and seeing beautiful faces and just being part of what is happening in this life and getting to love on my children, which leads me to my next part of this. And I will attempt not to cry because, boy, it has been a complicated week in our world. With just lots of big feelings. And I think the tragedy that hit our nation and really our world this week is complicated by this fact that it's also my birthday. And so there's lots of feelings. And, the losses in Texas are so profound, I think, and complicated and speak to me in so many ways about the health of our world and of our humans on the world. And I think about my own children who are the ages. And so it's just been a big week of feelings, and I imagine I'm not alone in that. We're faced with so much. It's just, there's a lot to feel. And in those moments, I turn to wisdom, to science, to neuroscience, to mentors, to people who are out doing the work and researching and studying and try to find something in it. And so I've been listening a lot and reading a lot and diving into my own mindfulness practice a lot this week. And I this week learned about somebody who's actually in Portland, Oregon, which I did not know. I just put his information in the chat. His name is Dr. Paul Condi. He has a book out that I have not read, but I have ordered. It's now coming to my mailbox. And I listened to him on a podcast. The podcast is called Good Life. And it's really amazing. And I did not put the link in here, so I apologize. I'll send it out or put it in the YouTube video of this. But it was just amazing. And he talked about trauma. He's a doctor in psychiatrics and has a focus on trauma, both from an educational standpoint and also from being in it in his own life. And so at the end of the podcast, Jonathan, the guy who runs the podcast, asked him, if you were to write a prescription for trauma, what would you write? Like a personal prescription to someone. And that's what I want to focus on today. What he said is less news, reflect on what's going on inside of you, and be nice to someone. And so what he meant by that was, it's important to be educated. It's important to be aware of what's going on. And then there's this line we cross, and it's so easy to do because news and people's thoughts on the news and interpretation of the news is just a click away. And we've all heard that phrase, doom scrolling, right? That we can get lost in just continuing to grasp at news and to fill ourselves with that when there isn't more to be had. But there's certainly lots of work on the part of the news world to keep our attention coming, to keep clicking on the latest update. And what he said is really note when you're doing that and educate yourself, stay current on the news, but then go in at that point, go inside, reflect on what are you feeling since you heard that news? What's going on inside of you? Get present. That's mindfulness, right? He didn't use those words, but that's exactly what it is. So we suffered a huge loss. Okay, how do I feel about that? What is that? What's happening for me? What are the reactions in myself as a mother, as a human, as a person who wants to be with people in trauma, and what's happening for me inside of myself, and get present with that, be mindful with that, so that I can then respond in a way that is intentional. I'll tell you, my gut reaction is to keep my kids home and never leave again, right? To have everything delivered. That is a reaction. That is fear. And so when I can get mindful with what it feels like, I can be really thoughtful, and I can choose what kind of life I want to create for my kids, and how I want to let them go out into the world, and how I want to respond to the trauma for the families and the communities that are happening, not just in Texas, but all over. And then be nice to someone. And I love that Dr. Condi added that at the end, because what he said is it reminds us that we don't have to live in vulnerability and in fear and in a sense of being powerless, that we have power, that just by simply connecting to another human being, being kind on purpose, reminds our brain and rewires our brain that we are meant to connect, that we are generous, that we are beautiful, that we share a time and a space together on this planet, and there's common humanity. And we rewire our brains to see each other through a lens that is united rather than divided. And when we have brains that reach for unity rather than division, we create a very different world. So thanks for going with me on that ride. Let's close our eyes and get into a practice this morning. You can also just take a soft gaze. The practice I want to bring to us today is just basic breathing practices. When we are triggered, we have a physiological response to that. Hardwired, primitive response. Our sympathetic nervous system is there for us to respond to stress, to respond to trauma. And it does such an amazing job. And we also want to be really intentional with letting it know we're okay. And we need to think, and we need to be creative, and we need to problem solve, and we need to act on purpose, be intentional. And so we want to do some things to activate our parasympathetic nervous system. And our breath is such a beautiful, powerful way to do that. And so I'm going to guide us through a few just basic practices that we can access throughout the day, so that when we find ourselves doom scrolling, when we find ourselves feeling powerless, when we find ourselves trying to soothe through autopilot, we can take a breath, we can anchor, and we can be in choice. And we can be curious, and we can explore. And so the first thing we're going to do is just find our breath. Just find your breath in your body. That's the very first thing you can do. When you notice this is happening, find your breath. Mine's shallow right now. Mine's way up in my shoulders, my chest bone. My heart is beating fast. And then purposefully take several long breaths. Bringing the breath all the way in and all the way out on purpose. Slowing down. Feeling the breath in your body, feeling how being purposeful with your breath changes your posture, allows your shoulders to go back into place, Brings ease into your belly, expansion into your chest. With that, after you've done that practice, you can say anything to yourself like, I am here now. Or you can say, what am I feeling now? Or how do I want to be in this moment? There's two other practices I really love that I want to share with you. One is box breathing. So if you imagine a box equal on four sides, it can be tiny, it can be big. You can trace it with your fingers. And we're going to simply use this as a pattern for our breath. So we breathe in for 4, we hold for 4, we exhale for 4, we hold for 4. Let's do this a few times together. If you find that you're challenged by this, just go to 3 or to 2, or you can elongate it. So we're going to inhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. And just return to your normal breathing. So we can drop into that and do that when we've noticed we're triggered. As we transition from one meeting to another, just using our tools, reminding our body we're safe. We're going to do a last one together, and then I'll take a moment to put a few things in the chat. I've got some resources available. I love this one. It's changed over the years for me. I used to use it as a 4-7-8 pattern, and now it's a 4-4-8 pattern. And when we're activating our parasympathetic nervous system, what we're doing is, again, telling our sympathetic nervous system that we're okay. We can not be in our stress response right now. We are not in acute trauma right now in this moment. I don't need this physiological response. That's what we're telling our body, telling our brain. And this is a really powerful breath to do that. And so we inhale for 4, we hold for 4, and we slowly exhale for 8. And again, you can make any adjustment to this you need. The point is the long exhalation. As we inhale, I want to encourage you to go through your nose. And as we exhale, I want to encourage you to go through your mouth, and even adding a or a. So let's do this together twice just to get it in our body. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And return to your normal breath, keeping your eyes closed or that soft gaze for a moment. Just being with yourself. Reminding ourselves that our world is big and beautiful and complicated and hard and all of it, and that we can feel and we can be safe in the feeling of it. And that there are many things that are not within our control. And our breath is how we experience this is. And slowly open up your eyes, and as you do so, just take in your surroundings. I put some resources in the chat. So the first one is a link to just a PDF. It's downloadable. It's through UC Berkeley. They have a really great mindfulness program there. And it's just a few breathing exercises that you can use. The next one is the Mindfulness Broadcast on Demand. It's just a link to the YouTube channel where I record all of these and put them. They're on our website. You can get them there. We also have a YouTube channel you can subscribe to so you get the updates. And then the final link there is a 6-minute video on breathing techniques. I recorded several years, actually the beginning of the pandemic. RWP had commissioned me to do a coping and self-care series. And so it's a link to that particular one, but there are 6 or 7, I forget, videos there. They're real short. They're all about 6 to 8 minutes that are just a series of helpful ways, mindful techniques. So there's one particular one on breathing there. Be well, everyone. Thank you for being here. Be nice. Be nice to you and to someone else today on purpose. Thank you. Bye.